Rawson Twitchell runs inside. Rawson Twitchell into the second level, the 10, the 5, touchdown Butte County.
It's time for another weekend of high school football in Idaho, and it's time for another edition of Gem State Game Day.
Simmons to throw. Going deep down the field. He's got a man isolated. Did he catch it? He did. Yeah. In traffic. What a grab by Guy Wheeler.
Before you head out tonight to cheer on your favorite team, get caught up on the latest news, notes, and previews from this weekend's Gridiron action.
Here's the snap, and it's intercepted at the 10-yard line. That's Bodie Brackenberry. Jackalow sniffed it out.
Gem State Game Day is brought to you by Valleywide Cooperative, Project Filter, and the Idaho Transportation Department.
This one's going to go all the way, 70 yards, no flag, touchdown Valley View. Austin Belknap, 70 yards to the house. Buckle up, here we go.
That is right. Welcome in to the Week 5 edition of Gem State Game Day here on IdahoSports.com, getting you set for all of the important football matchups across the great state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney. Let me introduce you to our panelists tonight. The general manager of IdahoSports.com. Hey, the big guy decided to come downstairs and hang with us common folk. It's Paul Kingsbury. Hello, Paul.
The big guy was finally allowed to be on one of these shows. I think you kind of keep me in the closet because you never know what's going to happen. You really don't want me and Scott in the same show, but I kind of found that Paul kind of got pushed because I'm kind of that wild. But I appreciate you asking me on this week. I really do.
Absolutely. And also a face you may recognize from the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, Joel Richardson. Joel, what's going on?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm just as excited as Paul, maybe a little bit less. But no, it's really a pleasure to be here. Talk some football.
Yep,
great games that we've had and great games coming up. And the dogs is excited too.
I can tell.
Paul, I'm going to need you to fill for a second here.
Okay. All right. Well, he's getting his dogs done. I put my dog outside with a chew toy. That's what I did as a responsible pet owner. But first up, we're going to do last week's headlines. So, Brandon, if you can actually hit the graphic. Last week's headlines. We're going to look at, first up, Owyhee officially announces their arrival with a 35-19 win over Meridian. Owyhee, a powerhouse in 6A football now. Meridian, also one of the top teams coming in. It was a big game, and Owyhee comes out on top. Next up is Sugar Salem's 25-game winning streak snapped by Star Valley out of Wyoming. Diggers hadn't lost a game since that double OT championship game lost to Weiser in 2021. A great game. We were at that one. So that one's done. They can start over. Lakeside blitzes Wallace 70-48 in an undefeated battle. Both these teams from up north Idaho in the Panhandle. One team had to win, and that team was Lakeside. They're going to have a great season moving forward.
Yeah, Tyson Charlie. We know what he can do on the basketball court for Lakeside, playing quarterback for the first time for Lakeside. All he did was score 9 touchdowns, guys. 339 yards, 5 touchdowns through the air, 204 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground. And so Lakeside 3-0 overall, 3-0 in North Star League play as well up north. Paul, you did excellent. You know, you got a real future in this business, let me tell you.
I'm kind of hoping that before I retire in a year and a half that I might be able to break through and be a Brandon Baney.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to aspire to that. You could aim higher for sure. I'm down at the lowest level. Okay, so we thought maybe coming in that Lakeside Wallace game was going to be one of the better matchups. Turned out to not be the case, but something we do every week here on Gem State Game Day. We don't look back that often. We mostly look ahead, but we do revisit our uncut gem of the week. This was just the best pure game from start to finish. Doesn't matter what the implications were, although if there are stakes in the game, that makes it certainly more exciting. We're going to Pocatello and Lookout Field for a non-conference showdown between Blackfoot and Pocatello. Blackfoot actually led this game, guys, 21-6 with 5 minutes to play in the third, but Pokey rallied. Quarterback Hunter May scores a rushing TD to bring Pokey within 21-14 at the end of 3. Then with 6:40 to play in the fourth, May throws a 26-yard touchdown pass to Hunter Cordell, ties the game up at 21-21. And you might think, okay, yeah, we're going to overtime. No, Pocatello had a shot at winning this in regulation. Hunter May, not only did he throw the game-tying touchdown, on the very next possession, he intercepts a pass from the secondary. And so Pocatello's got the ball back. A 45-yard touchdown run gets wiped out due to a holding penalty. They've got to settle for a long field goal. It misses. We go to overtime. Blackfoot wins the toss. They choose to go on defense first. That's always the correct move. Pocatello scores. Hunter May hits Cordell for the touchdown pass. Extra point is good. 28-21. Now it's Blackfoot's turn. Tanner Ellis scores on a touchdown run, and then first-year coach Josh Stewart, Paul, he used to coach at Declo, has won a lot of games at Declo, trying to change the culture here at Blackfoot, decides to go for the 2-point conversion in the win. They give it to Ellis. He scores. Blackfoot walks it off 29-28. I loved that gutsy call from Coach Stewart.
I am always a fan of those gutsy calls, going forward on 4th and 2 when maybe you're at the 40-yard line, going for 2 to win the game instead of tying it up. I love it. I love those gutsy calls. And it's it's a call that if it works, right? Like this. If it doesn't, why did you go for 2? Why did you go for 2? It worked out for Coach Stewart here, and he's always been a great coach, and I think he's got pretty good future at Blackfoot.
For sure. And so for Blackfoot, a non-conference win over a team that is favored to win District 5 this year, the Southeast Idaho Conference, that will certainly help with their Max Preps ranking down the line. But Joel, for Pocatello, how do they bounce back? They haven't tasted defeat yet this year until this game. It's a fairly new group of guys. I mean, they lost almost everybody to graduation a year ago, so it's still a team that's figuring it out at the varsity level. But how do we assess Pocatello moving forward?
I think you don't overreact. Look, you lost by 1. It's a non-conference game. You're at home. Yeah, it was homecoming. That kind of stings a little bit for sure. But you lost all those guys, but you still have Hunter May, and he is the everything for them, right? He helps on both sides of the ball. You talked about the offensive production. He got the interception on the defense. Pocatello will be okay, but it does hurt, and you start asking some questions. Okay, what can we do better? Look, Hunter May is amazing, but he needs more help. Just frankly, he needs a little bit more. He needs more help from like Hunter Cordell, right? He got the touchdown pass. He is so good at blocking, but more of that blocking and then releasing to get that release valve going. More Tavin Williams runs, Brandon, and then more of that Cody Kahn's quick slants that worked in that game, got them those touchdowns. And then I want to see a little more defense from Cash Stuckey on those in the linebacker. Pocatello will be okay. Don't overreact, but there's definitely more guys who can get production. So we're not just calling Hunter May's name in every recap.
Yeah, because he ran the ball a lot. He threw the ball a lot. And so for Pocatello, I think this is just a blip, speed bump in the road, but we'll certainly see. All right, Paul, let's take a look at this week's 5A Week 5 schedule. We also have the standings. This is the biggest classification, so the font's really tiny. Make your screen large if you're watching this on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, or X account. And then you'll see the schedule of games over to your right. Paul, what is the 5A game this week that you're most excited to see?
Shelley Century is what I'm looking at. And there's a lot of reasons for Shelley Century. Jason Bird comes in first season, Ryan Fleischman third year in his second stint. But Bird, you might remember him from, that name if you're old like I am. He played for Shelley back in 2003. He comes in, 2,000 rushing yards, about 27 touchdowns, 3A player of the year, played running back at U of I. And now he comes in to coach his former team. How cool is that? I mean, that just says Idaho high school football all over it. So, coming in, they haven't scored since their season opener over Preston. They got blanked by Star Valley and Sugar Salem last week. They start conference play next week against Hillcrest, so it's good to get those losses out of the way now. Century went 0-8 last year, a very young group. Very young. They're still young, but they're experienced young, led by that senior quarterback, 3 years of varsity experience under his belt. So Century still has to face a tough Teton team next week before their first conference game against Preston. Since the fall of 2000, just as a side note for you guys, when Century won its first football title in its second year of existence, head coach Lane Coffin was the coach there. And that was actually the A1 Division II is what that was called before it became 4A. And they won 2000, 2001, then again in 2003. I've always picked against Century, and it became a thing where if I picked for them, they were mad. They were upset because we had on the road back then. My name was Desk Jock way back in the day. we had all these other cool things going on. And so if it was a good luck thing or a bad luck thing, I always, and ever since 20 plus years, I always pick against Century just because that's what I do. And it was, Coach Coffin was always very adamant that, hey, you make sure you pick against us this week. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so Century was kind of the OG Hawaii. They opened the doors and started winning titles right away there at the turn of the millennium. Joel, what is the 5A game you've got your eye on this week?
I'm a little biased. I'll be at Hillcrest Skyline on Friday broadcasting for us there. So I'm actually looking forward to that game. Look, both teams are 1-0 in conference. Hillcrest 2-1, Skyline 1-1 from that blip on their radar against Madison. Hillcrest, look, they're still the defending conference champs. They haven't gotten a lot of love this year. So I'd love to see Hillcrest do something big against Skyline. And remember, Skyline lost to Hillcrest last year in those semis off that last second Hail Mary, which was mind blowing. And then Hillcrest, obviously the state runners up. And Skyline, questions for them: can they stop the Hillcrest QB rushing attack, right? And can Skyline get their own playmakers into space? There was a little bit just not enough production, I thought, from their playmakers in space last Friday. So looking for that from Skyline. And then back to Hillcrest, can they protect the football and then win the turnover margin? They had 2 turnovers that kept Thunder Ridge last Friday. It kept that game close. And look, whether we like it or not, guys, max prep ranking matters. And if you beat Skyline, if you beat Hillcrest, that's big for those max preps rankings. So really looking forward to that Hillcrest Skyline game this Friday night.
Winner of this game might be in the Catbird seat up there in the High Country Conference in District 6 as well. Both teams come in 1-0 in conference play. Other games of note: Sandpoint and Pocatello are going to play at a neutral site in Butte, Montana, at Montana Tech University. That should be a really fun non-conference matchup between two teams that are expected to win their respective leagues. You've got the annual Service Bowl between Twin Falls and Canyon Ridge. They always wear kind of camouflage uniforms. It's a really cool deal over there in Twin Falls. But the game I'm going to circle, and also we have Post Falls, a 6A taking on Lakeland, a 5A, a game you can watch Friday night on IdahoSports.com. The game I'm going to highlight, though, is over in District 3, that Southern Idaho Conference. It is Nampa at Bishop Kelly. Bishop Kelly was the preseason favorite. They're 2-1. They suffered a pretty humbling 42-7 loss to Rigby last Friday night on IdahoSports.com. Rigby does that to a lot of teams, so just a bump in the road. But then you look at BK, and oh boy, they barely beat Bonneville 28-20, and they had trouble putting Minico away. They won 20-8. Well, now this is BK's chance to say, hey, we're still the top dogs in this conference. I have always thought Nampa would be their greatest challenger this year. Nampa, a 6A school that petitioned down to the 5A level due to competition reasons. And so for me, Coach Ty Thomas, in his first, every time I mention it, I'm obliged to say he's a former Montana Grizzly. Former Montana Grizzly Ty Thomas in his first season as the Nampa head coach. He's got his guys playing well. Nampa started their season off with a conference win last Friday night. So to me, that's the game I am most excited to see here in week 5 of the 5A football slate. All right, guys, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of those 6A teams. You saw a couple of them on that 5A schedule. There are a few crossover games, but man, Southern Idaho Conference division play finally gets started this week. We'll finally start to clear the air a little bit in that gargantuan District 3 conference over in the 6A ranks. That is coming up right after this. You're watching Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
A hit in the morning, another between class, after school, and more before bed. Vaping sucks you in quick. Not to mention all the chemicals and health problems everyone's talking about. That's why thousands of teens are ready to take back their life their own way with My Life, My Quit. When you sign up with us, you'll get a free and simple quit plan that makes it easier to stop vaping. Visit mylifemyquit.com or text Start My Quit to 36072.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com, live every Thursday morning, 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Pacific Time on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. You can also watch it on replay anytime at those 3 destinations, anytime Thursday or Friday before the high school competition starts. Brandon Baney with Paul Kingsbury and Joel Richardson. We're moving on to the 6A football ranks, Idaho's largest classification, guys. Nobody has played an actual conference game yet, but that changes this week. The Southern Idaho Conference finally starts their division play. We do have one conference game over in Eastern Idaho as well. Joel, You got to pick second last time, so I'll let you go first on this one. What is the 6A matchup you're most excited to watch?
Speaking of which, man, Bora Lions at Owyhee Storm. First conference game for both, like you said, Brandon. Bora coming in 2-1, Owyhee 3-0. Big plans for Owyhee. The fans really want something big as they're only, 4 or 5 years old. Is that right? Owyhee beat Meridian last week, who were the state champs a few years ago. Owyhee has kind of had a soft schedule, though, except for that Meridian team. So very curious what head coach Jason Burton does for Owyhee. Of course, remember he was head coach at Bora. Then he went to Magic Valley, where his wife got a job out there in Cary. Then he got the job at Owyhee. I think it's interesting that Owyhee is scoring about 31 points per game. They're letting about 13 points per game from opponents. Bora, on the other hand, 33 points per game. They're allowing their opponents about 19 points per game. I know only a few games have been played, but I really like how close those numbers are. Bora, Season D, Brandon, but they've had a slightly tougher schedule so far. And then, of course, Bora has 30-plus seniors coming in. Really like this game against both teams. I love it that it's the first conference game for both. Should be a blast.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one for sure. That is our IdahoSports.com Pick 6 game for the 6A classification. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. Paul, what's the 6A game you've got your eye on?
I've got Thunder Ridge at Highland. Thunder Ridge coming in 2-1, Highland 4-0. But, you and I were at the Rocky Mountain Rumble. We saw them play Carson, Nevada. So they've beaten Legacy, Nevada. They've beaten Carson, Nevada, Summit, Oregon, and then they barely beat Lake City up in Coeur d'Alene 13-7 last week. So is this the same Highland program that we've seen in the past? I think this week is going to be a good test for that. Thunder Ridge 2-1 coming in. This is the conference opener for both of these teams. They started by beating Idaho Falls 2013, Centennial 21-3, lost to Hillcrest 36-21. So able to put up 21 against Hillcrest is a good sign for me. They've got a pretty tough schedule. Thunder Ridge does, playing Madison next week. But I've always had a little soft spot for Thunder Ridge because the athletic director, Travis Hobson, good friend of mine, he was at Shelley as a coach, then went to Century, which was my game for 5A. And now he's over there at Thunder Ridge doing a great job. So this game, I think, is going to be a bellwether game for both these teams. Thunder Ridge, are they really ready to break out in that conference? And Highland, are they really... And I think if they're going to come out as the, quote, legit team that Highland always is, they're going to have to pile on Thunder Ridge to prove it.
Highland's formula this year seems to be play solid defense, and if the game is close, that's all right. We don't mind winning a low-scoring affair. They won a low-scoring game at Lake City. They came all the way up to Coeur d'Alene last Saturday and escaped with a 13-6 victory, something like that. But, yeah, I agree. Highland, can they continue winning at that margin? We'll see. Rocky Mountain Capital, I think will be interesting. Rocky kind of the favorite, not just in the Foothills division of the Southern Idaho Conference, but maybe statewide. Coming into the season, they were listed near the top statewide of contenders. I think Capital's better than their 0-3 record. They lost to Boise on a walk-off field goal, essentially. They've been in some really close games. Eagle and Boise, of course, that's a battle. Those teams finished first and second in the River division last year in the Southern Idaho Conference. I got to be honest, I'm not sure Boise is as good as they were last year, even though they're 3-0. We'll see. They're going to really find out against a tough Eagle team. The game I'm going to highlight, guys, though, is a 6A, 5A crossover, Post Falls and Lakeland. Post Falls is 3-0, and they've looked really good, like really impressive. Lakeland has also gotten off to a nice start this year. They've had some impressive victories over Weiser and Bonners Ferry, and both these teams love to run the football. Both these teams love to stack the box on defense, and so I'm just excited to see the running game for Post Falls and Isaac McEwen at the controls there at quarterback, taking on maybe the most unheralded running back in the state of Idaho right now, Lovey Weil. I mean, he's only averaging like 150 yards per game. I mean, he's going to get to 1,000 yards by October at this rate for Lakeland. So I think that's going to be a really fun non-conference battle. And we finally get into conference play this week, so we'll start to put together that 6A puzzle for sure. All right, well, when we come back here on Gem State Game Day, it's our coaches interview. We're going to talk to head coach of the 4-0 Moscow Bears, Rob Bafus. Yeah, boss.
Oh boy.
Yes, you get a special shout out, Paul. It's going to be a lot.
Really?
Yes.
Nice.
So we'll talk to Rob Bafus, head coach of the Moscow Bears, and break down what lies ahead on the 4A schedule this weekend. Gem State Game Day rolls on right after this on Idaho Sports.
Later.
Okay. Girl, thank you.
Hello?
I was in an accident.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I had my seatbelt on.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day here on IdahoSports.com. We are joined now by Rob Bafus, head coach of the Moscow Bears. It's been a hot storyline this year across the 4A classification because the Bears 4-0, yet to taste defeat. Coach Bafus, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I enjoy everything you guys do. I follow you guys, and you do a great job. I'm not sure about your founder, what a great job he does. He's kind of out there in the sidelines sometimes, but no, I'll actually, all kidding aside, I really do enjoy what you guys do and how you cover the youth of our state.
Absolutely. Yeah. Paul Kingsbury, of course, our great general manager at IdahoSports.com. He is a panelist on this week's edition of Gem State Game Day. Your team 4-0. You had three kind of good tune-up wins, I would say, to start the year. And then to me, really kind of the first test. So you beat Kellogg 43-0, and you beat Caldwell 54-0. And then these last two victories over Washington opponents, Clarkston and Pullman, a 19-6 win over the Bantams. And then last week's overtime thriller, 26-25 over the Greyhounds. You've gotten into the challenging part of your schedule, and you're still passing the weekly test. What's been most important to your team's start this year?
Well, it's a great question. The coaching staff, the kids buying in, and it's different what we have going in our locker room. As you know, everybody knows we struggled the last couple of years, and for the kids to still be bought in and work the way they worked in the off season, and just following what the coaches are telling them, and believing, and it's just made all the difference in the world. And like I said, the locker room's different. The pregame's different. The mojo's different. Everything's different. So we just got to keep this thing rolling. We got a long ways to go.
Yep. Still a long ways to go, but 4 games in, it looks pretty good. Sometimes when we see teams from Idaho play out-of-state opponents, fans statewide don't know how to properly gauge, okay, was that a good win? Was it not? So for the rest of our audience in the state that maybe doesn't know Washington football as well, the back-to-back wins over Clarkston and Pullman, kind of describe how good those opponents were, because it was 2 really impressive victories, I thought, for your team.
Yeah, thanks. 2 really quality teams, well-coached teams. Both schools they're hard-nosed football players, and they love the sport, and they're prepared. And we know that when we play those schools, that they're going to come out of the locker room swinging. And of course, last Friday's game, a rivalry game across the border, 2 college towns, right? Moscow and Pullman, and football's big. Even Friday nights are big there. And then we're pretty unique. Where our community can go see a high quality college game on Saturday. So it was quite an extremely satisfying win Friday night. My first one against Pullman, my alma mater, and it was they're 2 quality teams. Again, like I said, they play in a tough league. Clarkston went too deep in the playoffs last year, and they're probably gonna win some games this year as well as Pullman. They're like I said, well coached and high quality teams.
So I think a lot of fans statewide know about Noah Velasco, your starting quarterback, who was maybe a bit hobbled on Friday night, but still able to deliver a win for you guys. Introduce our audience to some of the other important players that have stepped up early on this year for Moscow.
Well, obviously, you mentioned Noah. He's if people don't know about him around the state, they should. They should have known about him in the past couple of years, but we were 1-15. So when you're losing, you don't get the recognition you deserve sometimes. But he's surrounded by some great athletes, Connor Isaacson, Butch Kiblin, I can just keep going down the list. Keaton Fry, and we're really deep at receiver, and that's kind of showing as you can see, and establishing a run game this year, which we've struggled with over the past 2 years, and Aiden Prakash running the ball, and then on the defensive side, Jericho Pike at middle linebacker for us. He's kind of our quarterback on defense, and our big guys up front. I'd be remiss not to mention them. We have a good sprinkling of guys that we can put in there, and we can rotate on defense, and then just keep things rolling.
A big storyline for you guys is, you've mentioned it, that the program has struggled a little bit over the past couple of years. And so with that, Moscow High School petitioned down a classification in football. So you guys are a part of the 4A landscape. You used to be part of the 4A, but that's now 5A. It can be a little confusing. But you're in a league with Timberlake and Bonners Ferry. How much has that helped the rebuilding of the Moscow High football program?
Well, it still remains to be seen. We play Clarkston, Pullman every year, so we didn't drop down there. We played Kellogg the year before, and we'll see. I've never played Bonners Ferry, so that's going to be interesting to see what we can get for them on film. I got to get eyes on them. And Timberlake. They're again well coached, and they're going to come out swinging and pounding, but. We're playing a team from Canada, Lethbridge, Canada, that is new to our schedule. And then, Lakeland, and Lakeland is Lakeland, right? So for us, really, it's kind of just stayed the same. The 4A is still the 4A, all jokes aside, but just a different opponent. And, we got some tough ones ahead of us.
Yeah, so you mentioned that back half of the schedule, Lakeland, and then Lethbridge, Canada, and Bonners Ferry and Timberlake to wrap up in the conference slate. You do have a road trip to St. Mary's this Friday night. The Lumberjacks, a 3A program, previously 2A. They've been on the wrong side of a couple of hard-fought battles. They nearly came back on Bonners Ferry last week and fell a 2-point conversion shy. How do you view this matchup with St. Mary's?
Yeah, this is a new school that we'll be playing this year, but we know a little bit about them. They get together with us in 7-on-7 throughout the summer, and I know that they're gonna, they're just some tough kids in St. Mary's, and they won't give up. They'll play hard, and we're not taking them lightly by any means. And that's the number one thing on my mind right now at St. Mary's, and getting through them and on to the next week. But they'll be ready to play.
For sure. Well, Moscow High has been one of the pleasant surprises this year statewide in terms of football. What were the goals that you set for your guys at the start of the season? And now we're almost to the midway point. We can maybe assess how close you are to checking off some of those boxes.
Jesus, almost midway already. Oh, yeah. Just believing and believing in themselves and believing in the coaching staff is kind of what our goals were, and just doing the right thing. We have one rule in our locker room, and that's do the right thing. And this group of young men has continued to do that year in and year out under my tenure. And it's just great to see it come to fruition for the kids. Just sticking with it. I get emotional talking about it, just what they've been through, and to stick with us the way that they have, and to continue to believe in the staff and themselves is super special. And that's really neat to see in the locker room, and again, see it come to fruition and pay dividends to these young men.
Well, it's been a fun ride so far to watch. And of course, on the back nine of the regular season, we'll be keeping a close eye on everything going on up there in Moscow as well. Head coach Rob Bafis, thank you for the time. Keep up the good work as well.
Thanks, Brandon. It's fun when you're winning. We get to talk to you, and hopefully we'll do this some more.
All right, guys, there you go. Rob Bafis, head coach of the Moscow Bears. Paul, obviously, longtime friend of the program here at IdahoSports.com.
Is that what you call that? I'd like to say hi to my former friend, Rob Bafis, for that backhanded shout-out he gave me.
Coach Bafis is my favorite guy now.
Man, we go with me at the up in Moscow, at the Dome all the time. Great guy. I don't know what happened. He goes to Moscow and gets all uppity and looks down on all of us, little peons down here. But man, what was that?
He's got a great team this year as well. Great guy, great team. The Moscow Bears are 4-0 as we look at our 4A schedule for this week of action. We mentioned in the interview, Moscow is going to play St. Mary's, a 3A program this week. Paul, since you were the one that was aggrieved in that interview, I'll give you first crack at the board here. What's your 4A game you're keeping an eye on?
Fortunately, I'm really hard to offend, so I forgive you, Rob. Coach Bapus, you're good. So, in fact, Moscow St. Mary's is the game that I picked for this. So coming into this one, there's a lot of emotion in St. Mary's. There has been for a couple of years. Coach Craig Teft led them to a championship back in 2016, passed away in September. That affected the entire town, the team. And so playing with emotion can help or it can hurt. And I think that they're using it to help. I think they're really using it to their advantage, playing for something beyond themselves. And, coming in 0-3, they lost to Sandpoint, Honors Ferry, Kellogg. Okay, that's fine. Moscow 4-0. And I looked back. I couldn't find in recent memory where Moscow started any season 4-0 ever. I mean, maybe a long, long time ago, but nothing in the last 10, 12, 14 years. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Coach Bapus. I'm sure you will. But looking at this one coming in, they beat Pullman 26-25 in overtime last week. Couple of Washington schools, Clarkston, Pullman, and then Caldwell and Kellogg. So you can't say that their schedule's been overly tough. I think St. Mary's has been tougher at 0-3. You've got junior Jack Barta coming back as quarterback for St. Mary's, as well as two of his top receivers from a year ago. Seha Grimaldo, Hayden DeFort. But like you mentioned in that talking to Coach Bapus, you've got the first team all-league quarterback Noah Velasco and his two top receivers, Connor Isaacson, Butch Kiblin. Definitely a tough early schedule for St. Mary's, but I think the Fighting Bapuses in Moscow are probably about to go 5-0 for the first time in unofficial Kingsbury history.
Yeah, the last time Moscow had this much acclaim to them, they were led by Jonah Ellis, senior tight end and linebacker, who's playing in the NFL now for the Denver Broncos. So, Joel, what's the 4A matchup you're looking at?
I'm looking at Buell at American Falls. I think that's going to be a really good game. We don't talk much about American Falls, but I'm bullish on them. I know, Brandon, you were the last couple of years trying to convince people that, hey, American Falls is on their way, and I think they are this year. Buell is 2-1. American Falls 3-1. I think American Falls has a slightly softer schedule than Buell. And hey, you guys know to not pick against Buell, as Buell defeated Weiser 9-6, and they let you guys all have it. It was great to have those guys on a few weeks ago. But yeah, they got that great junior QB, Zach Azevedo. He's going to be threatening some all-time passing records. And they just have a really good defense. They're tough and gritty. But American Falls, I'm bullish on them. They're a senior-heavy team. They lost to Aberdeen by it was just a couple points, and Aberdeen's had them for years, and we're this close to beating a really good Aberdeen team. They got a senior quarterback, Dax Brower. He's solid. Their junior running back, Zach Gregg. He had his birthday a few weeks ago. He's fast in space and on the edge. If they can block for him on those edges, watch out. And I know Buell's defense is good, so I think that's going to be a really good competition. And then, man, they have a great senior wide receiver, Austin Adair. He's got awesome hands, and he's obviously a favorite target of Dax Brower. Both lost to good 3A SCIC teams. Buell lost to Declo. American Falls lost to Aberdeen. This could be like a future first, second round 4A playoff matchup, Brandon. So looking forward to this one.
No doubt about it. The 4A game I'm going to highlight here. I mean, obviously, like Kimberly, Sugar, Salem's going to be great. Star Valley just beat Sugar last week. Now they play Teton. Teton at 0-3. That is a tough game. Teton might slip to 0-4, still missing their all-state running back, Jack Joyce, and hopefully he is back soon for them. You've got like Grangeville going to McCall Donnelly will be a fun one. Nampa Christian at Fruitland should be pretty decent. Marsing at Payette. The game I'm going to hone in on, guys, though, is in Buell's conference. It's the only conference game in District 4 this week, the Sawtooth Central Idaho Conference, and it's Filer at Wood River. Wood River, kind of like Moscow. They have petitioned down. They were kind of the pilot for this football petition down only. They should be at the 4A level in terms of their enrollment. Or at the 5A level in terms of enrollment. They're playing 4A football. They went to the playoffs last year. And so I got to assume the next time we do this thing, Wood River is probably going to get the bump back up because they have revitalized their football program a little bit. Filer went 0-9 last year. And on the surface, you go, oh, okay, boy, they're not that great. Well, kind of like I was beating the drum for American Falls. I'm beating the drum for Filer this year. They've already won more games this year. They're 1-2, right? Than they did all of last year. Now, 0-9, they lost the 2 key conference games last year to Gooding by a touchdown, 25-18, and to Wood River right around this same time last year, 28-26. Now, Filer wins those 2 games. They're probably going to the playoffs instead of Wood River. So I know Filer is motivated to beat the Wolverines after they lost by just 2 points last year, 28-26. So that is the 4A matchup that I've got my eye on there. All right, we'll take a break, guys. We'll come back and take a look at the last of the 11-man action at the 3A level right after this. You're watching Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
We're a valley-wide country store. For 100 years, we've been your #1 choice for food, fuel, farm supplies, and just about everything else you could need to get you through your day. We know you work until the job is done, and so do we. For gas on the go or a little extra to help you get down the road, you can count on us. We are proud to employ your neighbors and to be a cornerstone of your community. We're valley-wide. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We're here for you.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day, Week 5 edition here on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. Brandon Baney joined by Paul Kingsbury and Joel Richardson. All right, guys, the last of the 11-man action this weekend. It's our Class 3A breakdown. We've got a lot of interesting non-conference battles. There isn't a ton in terms of league action. In fact, I don't know if there's any conference games this week. It's all non-conference battles. So, Joel, I'll let you go first here. Which 3A matchup are you most excited for?
Oh, man, this one was tough, but I'm really looking at, again, it's kind of East Idaho bias, but Aberdeen at Ryrie should be really, really good. Ryrie's up and coming. They're someone who we haven't really talked about much, even on the East Idaho Prepcast. That's going to be good, or Ryrie's going to be good. Aberdeen is obviously top dog next to Declo in their SAIC conference. I think both those teams, I believe Ryrie is undefeated. Aberdeen, I believe, is also undefeated. So whoever loses, it's their first loss of the season, should be really good.
Yeah, we've got the standings directly to the left there. Aberdeen 3-0 already with 2 conference wins over Declo and Wendell, the newcomers to that Southeast Idaho Conference. Both these teams love to run the ball. This game could be over. It's going to kick off at 7 o'clock. It could be done by like 8:15, the way these two love to run the rock. So I agree. That'll be a fun one for sure. Paul, what's the 3A game you're most excited for?
The one I'm going to. First time ever Idaho Sports has been to Salmon, Idaho. And I'm happier than a puppy in a room full of rubber balls to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun heading up there with my good friend Scott Stewart. It's going to be a lot of fun. So Orofino coming in, they're up there in District 2 outside Kamiah. Head coach Jake Metke in his 3rd season, going up against Salmon, who have seen that coaching carousel. He's Quade McQuarrie's 1st season, but he's the 5th head coach in 5 years. Last year, they couldn't field a team. So, both of these teams are really looking to reinvent themselves after several years of being, quote, down. Before this season, the last time Orofino won a football game was, I look back, September 24th of 2021 against Marsing. They blanked them 31-0. Orofino's opened up with a win this year against Moscow's JV team. Then they followed that up with a 55-0 loss against a pretty untested, in my opinion, Payette squad on September 6th. Then a bye week. So it's been 2 weeks since the Maniacs have taken the field. So we'll see how they do coming out of a bye week so early in the season. It's a good time to kind of get those kinks out versus those, based on those games they did. But they have a lot of athletes. Scott Burton and I did the 2A state baseball tournament, and these are all names that, we recognize, Ed Harrison, Aiden Olive, Declan Crockett, Jake Scott. And you can't really root against a team that's got a John Wicks on the team. Yeah, sure, it's Wicks, but his parents knew what they were doing. Shout out to them for naming their kid John Wick. Sound great's that. Now, Salmon won 2 games, 2021, 0-7 in 22. Again, didn't field a team. But you have to be a fan of Coach McQuarrie as well, Brandon. He's a Montana Tech guy. He was wide receiver.
Yeah, Montana Tech ore digger, Montana native, born and raised. And both of these coaches, Jake Metke of Orofino coached the Maniacs junior high program for a long time. So he's been coaching a long time. And then you got this young buck McQuarrie who was a college football player not that long ago, like 2016, 17, kind of a contrast there. So I just went through Salmon last week on my way back from East Idaho. It was beautiful. The scenery up there, unmatched. I just wish there was someone a little closer to them. But Orofino's going to hook up their wagons, get the oxen ready, and make that long journey across Montana to go to take on Salmon. The game I'm going to keep an eye on, guys. It's our Gem State game of the week. It's North Fremont at Melba. And this is something, if you're not inclined, something new we're doing this year at IdahoSports.com. We're taking one game per week, and we're giving it just a little more shine and polish than we are the other games we're broadcasting. Multiple camera angles, enhanced graphics, really the top-of-the-line production values. And our Gem State game of the week this week is a non-conference showdown between North Fremont and Melba. Melba off to a 1-2 start. I still think they're going to be okay. North Fremont obviously 3-0 with a brand new coach and Keith Director. They still got a bevy of good running backs, so they still like to run the ball a little bit, but this is going to be a fun one and could be pretty telling. If Melba falls to 1-3 here in this non-conference battle, it's going to put a lot of pressure on them once the conference season gets going. So really excited to see that one, and all of you can see it as well this Friday night. It's our Gem State game of the week on IdahoSports.com. All right, guys, we will take another break and come back with the 8-man action, 2A, 1A previews on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. It's Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
A hit in the morning, another between class, after school, and more before bed. Vaping sucks you in quick. Not to mention all the chemicals and health problems everyone's talking about. That's why thousands of teens are ready to take back their life their own way with My Life, My Quit. When you sign up with us, you'll get a free and simple quit plan that makes it easier to stop vaping. Visit mylifemyquit.com or text Start My Quit to 36072.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney with Paul Kingsbury and Joel Richardson. Okay, before we get to our 8-man conversation, the 2A, 1A schedule, Joel had one more, and I'm shocked Paul didn't talk about this when he was breaking down that Orofino Salmon matchup. Joel, the nicknames for each of these schools, right?
Dude, I love it. Maniacs versus Savages. That is all-time mascot battle. We need to see a fight at halftime, like a play fight, like one of those,
Oh, no, I say it's a real one. Real one. Yeah,
that's awesome. I love those mascots.
I mean, if we technically were going to do like would a maniac beat a savage? Well, I don't know if you've seen the salmon logo, but it's actually like a grizzly bear with like a salmon in its mouth. So it's like I'm going to go salmon in that battle. Man versus bear. Yeah, sorry, Orofino Nation. Okay, let's go to. Yes, let's go to the 8-man action this week, guys. We'll start at the Class 2A level. The White Pine League, because there's 8 teams, they are rocking and rolling. Logos off to a 3-0 start already in league play. They're almost halfway through their league slate. Potlatch, Kendrick, Prairie are all 1-0, so we're keeping an eye on everything going on up there. The Western Idaho Conference finally begins conference play this week. Notice and Wilder will get it started. The Snake River Conference is going to have some pretty juicy matchups as well. Paul, where are you going here with our first 8-man preview here at the Class 2A level?
You know what? I am going for a good one. It's going to be Kamei at Prairie. And at first, I just want to say Kendrick at Clearwater Valley. I've seen Kendrick play a couple times this year, and I love Alan Hutchins there at Clearwater Valley. They're playing hard. They're playing hard. So good luck to Clearwater Valley in that one. But Kamei, Prairie, it's going to be a good one. Nels Clute in the 9th season, and head coach Ryan Hasselstrom back again. Come on, Joel knows that one. Saying he's 12th season total. He took a couple of years off, and Prairie kind of went down a little bit, and now he's back. Had a chance to talk to him at Fruitland a couple of weeks ago when we were there for the Gem State Game of the Week, and it didn't go too well for Prairie, but he's looking forward coming down. He actually told me that offensively, he said they need to get a lot smarter. Each drive they've been getting a little bit better. The good news, he said, their passing game is improving, so he hopes they can be a little less one-dimensional. Instead of run, they can actually get some yards in the air to throw the defense off a little bit. With Captain Ryan Hasselstrom back at the helm for the Pirates, it's homecoming. That can be a distraction, figuring out what to wear on Thursday for Hawaiian Day. That's always getting in the kids' heads. Did they get turned down by the cutest girl in school? You never know where their head's at. But Ryan told me that it's a must-win game, and his guys are focused on the job they've got to do. And going up against a very tough Kamei team, he said the player they have to focus on is Clute, quarterback. There at Kamei, David Clute, 3-year starting quarterback. Kamei, the Cubs got bumped in the playoffs by Grace last year, early in November. A pretty young line on both sides. If they can mature quickly, according to the preview, now we're mid-season, it's time. They could be playing pretty deep into November. Last year, Kamei beat Prairie at home 50-14, and I know that Coach Hasselstrom and the Pirates are looking to get a little revenge this year, this Friday night.
Yeah, Kamei 0-1 in White Pine play, but that was to Logos. So really, I mean, we'll see. This is a big game because right now, the way I see it, 5 teams probably are going to make the playoffs. The top 5 teams you see in the standings there. The question is, what order will they finish in? Kamei and Prairie will be one of those games to see who can get a leg up. David Clute, good dual threat quarterback for Kamei, runs the rock really well, can throw it on a rope too. 2 years in a row, Grace has ended Kamei's season. Last year in the quarterfinals, the year before in the semifinals over in the Dome in Pocatello. So as long as it's not Grace lined up against Kamei, they feel pretty good about their chances. Joel,
yes.
Joel, what's the game you're looking at?
Speaking of Grace, Glenn's Ferry Pilots at the Grace Grizzlies, man. The Pilots are 2-0. Grace is 2-2. So that might feel like, oh, okay, Glenn's Ferry, they should win this. Glenn's Ferry is good. They're the team that dropped 82 points versus Wilder, right? A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so 82 points, I don't care if it's 8-man or it's hoops. 82 is really impressive. And Glenn's Ferry is averaging 61 points a game. Their opponents are at 11. So Glenn's Ferry, really good defense. They got a really good senior quarterback, Landon Stewart. His favorite target, senior wide receiver Bryce Sterling. Sterling is getting like 100 yards per game right now. And then on the rush game, Josiah Valencia, 61 yards per game. So Glen Falls, a lot of offense. But unfortunately, the Grace also has a lot of offense. Their offense is stellar. Their D could use some work. I saw them play first game of the season, and they looked like they hadn't missed a beat from 2023. Obviously, Gavin Draper at quarterback, really good ball. Jay Smith kind of at running back, and then Derek Hill, Bryant Moss, Cooper Anderson, and Cooper Anderson. Those are all great targets for Grace. They're averaging 42 points a game, and then their opponents are at 36. I think this is going to be a total shootout. It's a classic 8-man. I think they're going to score more points than your average college hoops game, Brandon.
For sure. Grace fell to the Adrian Antelopes from Oregon last week in a neutral site game at Lighthouse Christian. Right. The Lions don't have a varsity program this year, so I'm glad somebody was able to use that nice turf over there at Lighthouse. Yeah, exactly. And Glenn's Ferry has a guy, the linemen never get any love, but Junior Sanchez, he is the nose guard for Glenn's Ferry. I've had several people tell me he is quote unquote a problem. And so that's a good focal point for Glenn's Ferry on defense too. The game I'm looking at, guys, is a non-conference battle. It's a 2A versus 1A. It's Rimrock at Tri-Valley. Rimrock is the only team in the Western Idaho Conference that has won a game. They're 2-0. The rest of the league, Idaho City, Wilder, and Notice, they're a combined 0-7. Now, Notice has played a tough schedule. Idaho City and Wilder have dropped some games that they felt like maybe they had a shot at winning coming into the season. So my question is, okay, is Rimrock ready to take that next step forward? They have Ronaldo Gomez, who is the quarterback on offense. He's the leading rusher most games. He plays defensive back. He kicks, and he's a good kicker. He's got a 44-yard field goal in his career. He's the punter. He's the kickoff returner. He's the punt returner. He does it all for Rimrock. Meanwhile, Tri-Valley, they really lean on their quarterback, Jace Wagoner, dual threat QB, but he's got some really good receivers that he can throw the ball to as well. So Tri-Valley is undefeated. Rimrock is undefeated. Both of these teams are trying to find their footing over there in District 3. So that's the game that I am most excited for there. And for Oakley, I'll just mention really quickly, it's been a long time since Oakley started a season 0-3. Now they got to play Valley, a really good Valley team. They're staring down the barrel of an 0-4 start. It has gotten late early for the Oakley Hornets. All right, 1A schedule of games, guys. This is the smallest classification in Idaho. Almost everybody has gotten out to conference play with the exception of the White Pine League up in District 2. That changes this weekend, and then the Long Pin Conference over in District 3. We got to wait just a little bit longer for conference play to start over there. Paul, what's the game you've got your eye on?
The battle of the 0-3s, Deary and Timberline. And Deary is really that team that people were looking at to be the top of their conference this year. Timberline always seems to struggle. They've got that they can't get guys out. So it's always a struggle having guys on the bench there. The co-head coaches, Pat Christopherson, 7th season, co-head coach Ryan West there at Timberline. And for Deary, head coach Tim Olson, it's his 4th season, but he was a former Kendrick assistant coach. So they brought a guy over who knows how to win. He probably stole that green rolled up playbook from Zane Hobart and said, I'm going to do this thing. So Timberline was a young team last year, and they went 2-6. They're still a young team. They graduated 4 seniors out of their 11-man roster, but they got a sophomore quarterback, Corbin Christopherson, a crew of juniors in the top other spots there in their skill players. Both teams, like I said, have a rough start so far this year, 0-3. So this week's game's a chance for both teams to kind of fine-tune those last few things to get ready for games that, quote, count in conference play. Deary seems to have the pieces. Dawson Bovard, TJ Byer, senior running back, along with, of course, quarterback Nolan Hubbard in his first season as the starter, but he's played. So Deary hasn't been to the playoffs since 2018. It's been a while. So Deary playing a pretty tough schedule early on, that's only going to help them down the road. I think they're going to be pretty tough to beat the rest of the season.
Yeah, the White Pine League, it's a league of opportunity this year now that Kendrick is finally gone and kicked up to the 2A level. Lewis County and Genesee play this Friday night as well. Lewis County at times will have as many as 5 freshmen out there. Coach Monty Madrell, though, he knows how to coach him up. And so we'll see if the Diaper Dandy squad can get it started against the Genesee team that is 2-1. Joel, what's the 1A game you've got your eye on?
I'm really excited for Garden Valley. We're at North Gem. The fact that North Gem, they basically just run the triple option the entire game. I love that. Super old school, hard-nosed football. Actually, I was direct messaging, if you will, with Coach Hatch of North Gem, and he's such a cool guy. He's really looking forward to this Garden Valley game. He said it's an awesome opportunity for their team. They have a lot of games after this on the road, and all of this is a good test to hopefully get them buoy them into the playoffs. Garden Valley, on the other hand, look, they're run and gun, throw the ball well. They played 5 different QBs in their only game of the year last week, so which they won. So they're 1-0. North Gem coming in at 2-1. Garden Valley is a little bit unknown. We don't really know what they are because they've only played that one game. The game before that was canceled due to the weather. They got that stud Trevor Korn. He's a huge running back and linebacker. I think it was all-state linebacker last year. Very productive on the ground. North Gem, of course, they got their Craig Yost. They got Rusty Hatch at quarterback. And North Gem actually threw a few passes last week, guys. I think they went 2 for 3 with 22 yards and a touchdown throw.
66% completions.
That's right. Watch out. But Rusty Hatch wanted, Corey Hatch. Corey Hatch, Corey Hatch wanted to make sure that, hey, we got to throw the ball and keep teams on. So we're looking forward to seeing if they throw a little bit more against Garden Valley and who comes out with that win. It's going to be physical. Going to be a really good game.
Yeah, unusual seasons for each so far. Garden Valley's season opener wiped out due to the smoke. Then they went to Castleford, played 5 different quarterbacks in a runaway win. They camped overnight somewhere in that Castleford area. Coach Jason Yearsley got up in the morning, made them all breakfast. They got back on the bus and drove back to Garden Valley. North Gem is 2-1, 2 pretty impressive wins, and kind of a head-scratching loss to Shoshone along the way 2 weeks ago. So Shoshone got North Gem 28-14. So that'll be a fun non-conference battle for sure. Guys, the game I'm watching is another crossover, 2A versus 1A. It's Rockland at Hagerman. We know the Bulldogs, they've had to play about 5 different guys at quarterback this year, not by choice. They're down to their 3rd different quarterback this season because of injuries. Hasn't really seemed to bother them that much. They are 2-1. The one loss coming to Dietrich in a game that they held a multi-score lead, and then Connor Perkins put on the superhero cape for Dietrich in the second half and led the Blue Devils back to a narrow victory. And Hagerman's a great team this year. They were a 1A semifinalist last year. They're now at the 2A level, though. And so for Hagerman, they've got Kai Kendall at a wide receiver, Seamus Merrill, who's a good receiver. They've got Wyatt Mavenkamp directing the offense at quarterback. So this is going to be a good measuring stick game for both of these teams. And for Rockland, a win here would really help their Max Preps ranking pretty significantly. So we will see. That's the 1A schedule. Guys, we're going to take one more break and come back with our game stream schedule and our pick 6 selections. Don't go anywhere. Gem State Game Day right back after this on IdahoSports.com.
We're a valley-wide country store. For 100 years, we've been your #1 choice for food, fuel, farm supplies, and just about everything else you could need to get you through your day. We know you work until the job is done, and so do we. For gas on the go or a little extra to help you get down the road, you can count on us. We are proud to employ your neighbors and to be a cornerstone of your community. We're valley-wide. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We're here for you.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com. Before we hit the door, guys, it's time to see what's on tonight at IdahoSports.com. Here's what we've got for you. Our broadcast schedule. North Fremont at Melba. That's our game of the week. Thunder Ridge at Highland. We've got Hillcrest at Skyline. A couple of good East Idaho battles. Orofino at Salmon. That big cross-country battle Paul's going to do. And then Post Falls at Lakeland up north. And of course, you can see all of the broadcasts we are planning by going to IdahoSports.com and clicking on the Game Streams tab. So guys, are you ready? Week 5 of the high school football season, mere hours away. Last bit of business before we head out. It's our IdahoSports.com pick 6. Each week, the 6 prepcasters here at IdahoSports.com pick the winner of 6 different games, one for each classification. Here's what we've got this week, guys. Scott Burton is our new lead dog at 18-6. I am tied for second with Ryan Skaggs. We're both 17-7. Logan is 16-8, and then Sean Kane and Paul Kingsbury both in the cellar at 14-10. Here's our picks this week. Me and Paul both picked Owyhee over Bora. We both picked Post Falls over Lakeland. We both took Grace over Glens Ferry. We both took Hagerman over Rockland. Where we differed was 3A and 4A. I took Wendell. Paul took Coal Valley Christian. And then I took Grangeville, and Paul took McCall Donnelly. Joel, I want your unbiased assessment here of our picks. Oh,
here we go. You got me.
Yep. Yes.
I agree with, I think Brandon, you muted me. No, good. I agree with everything on here. Honestly, everything looks good except for 2. The Wendell CV, Coal Valley Christian, that's going to be Coal Valley Christian over Wendell. Dude, they're scoring 20, giving up 27. Wendell is averaging 8 points, giving up 46. There is no way Wendell wins this game. Brandon, next time you're in Pocatello, if Wendell wins, Mexican on me, man.
Okay. I think Wendell's played a tough schedule so far. And I do really like Grangeville's potential over McCall Donnelly, but we shall see. So that is the IdahoSports.com pick 6. If you're wondering, hey, what did Scott pick? What about Skaggs? What about Sean Kane? Is he going to be tied to the hip with Paul in the Losers Lodge for the entire season? Where are their picks? Well, you'll have to stay tuned to IdahoSports.com's social media. We always drop the full complement of picks after Gem State Game Day airs. And of course, we're keeping track of season win totals all year long. All right, guys, that'll do it for the Week 5 edition of Gem State Game Day here on IdahoSports.com. Paul Kingsbury, thank you. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
Joel Richardson, the same.
Likewise, man. Anytime. Happy to be here.
All right. Enjoy the competition this weekend, everybody. For Paul Kingsbury and Joel Richardson, my name is Brandon Baney. We will see you back here next week live Thursday morning, 8 a.m. Mountain, 7 a.m. Pacific on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account for the Week 6 edition of Gem State Game Day. But until then, enjoy the games this weekend, everybody. And don't forget to keep it locked into IdahoSports.com for all of the latest scores and updates. Thanks for tuning in to Gem State Game Day, everybody.